All right, everybody, I'm super excited to announce our newest featured speaker for Agency Mastermind Live, Melissa Taylor. Melissa is a certified master trainer in NLP and a master practitioner in Timeline Therapy and Hypnotherapy. She is a passionate life coach with over 15 years of experience in organizational psychology. She believes that mindset is the key to conquering the battlefield in your mind and achieving success in all areas of your life. I know that's a big area that AJ and I have worked on. She's going to be sharing her personal journey of self-discovery and how she utilizes the amazing tools of NLP and hypnotherapy to access positive change both at the conscious and unconscious levels. So really excited, Melissa, to explore all this stuff with you and really dive into how you look at changing negative past programming and limiting beliefs, so that way we can really all thrive in the areas that we know that we should be, right?
Awesome. Yeah. So Melissa, maybe you could start by just telling us a bit about your background and how you got or became an NLP expert.
Yeah, so this has been a passion of mine for a while, as you guys know. Really where it came from was I was a consultant, a business consultant, psychology. My background started in organizational psychology. So going into organizations and diagnosing them and seeing where the problems were or where the inefficiencies are. And so much of what we found was that it was all mindset a lot of times, besides leadership skills and management skills and other sorts of technical things. There's a huge component of success, and that is the psychological part of it. And so as I started working in this field, I just became more and more fascinated with the psychology part and less with the technical part. So I just kept exploring more, and I discovered NLP, and it was very much in line with what I was doing in psychology. But with NLP, Neuro-linguistic Programming, it dives more into, I guess, the workings of the successful mindset and finding out really what is it that makes somebody successful versus unsuccessful. Because you can have all the skill sets, and that's what I found when I was working in these companies. Everybody was running pretty much same systems and operations, but one would be thriving and one would be, I had clients who were going bankrupt. So what was it that was the difference, right? And so neuro means brain, linguistic is language, programming pulls it all together of the way that our language is programmed in our mind to affect a response. So whatever we're experiencing on the outside, whatever people are telling us, what we're experiencing as, in our past, that all creates these beliefs and these programs in our mind that create a language that we even tell to ourselves, even at a deeper subconscious level of I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or even programs about money, like money is the root of all evil, or rich people are mean, whatever it is. Like that all impacts how we represent those experiences internally, and as we represent those internally, we create a response from that, like a behavior or a belief that leads into being successful or not. So that's really how I got into NLP. I just started diving more and more deeply into it because I'm really fascinated by the fact that it's really what they call is the study of success. And I'm fascinated by the fact that we could take what somebody is successful in their mindset. We could break that down, which was what we call strategies. What is their internal strategy for success? And we could take those qualities and then we can, what we call, map it over. We could take that and bring it into a technique and bring it to somebody who has an unsuccessful pattern of behavior and change it. And so that's really the beauty of this, is that we have this neuroplasticity. Our brain is plastic in a way, right? We can change the things that we thought we couldn't change before. And so that's really the whole crux of NLP. And then bringing that into the subconscious mind, which runs 88% of our behavior, which is insane.
The whole idea of, there are stories that we tell ourselves, like our thoughts, our beliefs, our habits, our patterns are all a collection of stories that were either told to us at some point, or we experienced, or we told to ourselves. And that kind of gets baked into not only our conscious mind, but our subconscious mind. And at the end of the day, we're kind of like robots walking around responding to our environment based off of what has happened in the past. And so if I understand what you just said correctly, is that there's an opportunity for us to say, if our outside world and the way that our agencies look, the amount of money in our bank account, the relationships we have, our level of satisfaction and joy isn't to the levels that we want, that the modality or the way of changing or seeking to change that in your own life is about revisiting the automatic programming that might be operating inside of you. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's getting down to awareness of those subconscious patterns, because subconscious is unknown, right? I mean, we're just, here's a real simple way of thinking about it. You can get into your car and you know where the grocery store is, and you can go there and you don't even have to think about it. Right? You could get in there, and sometimes you're on autopilot and you end up where you're supposed to be, and you're like, well, how did I even get here? I wasn't even paying attention. That's the subconscious programming. That is an automatic program. And so we learn that, right? We develop it by learning how to drive. We learn how to turn the ignition on, how to push the gas, etc. And so that's exactly how these other patterns have started. They were learned at a young age, usually between the ages of 0 and 7, which is super young to have a program running in your 40s, 50s, 60s, right? Like you're sitting there on this operating system from 7 years old that's still running a program telling you that you're not good enough, or that you'll never succeed, or that, you don't have what it takes. It's like that doesn't even make sense now. So yeah, what we have to do is go into those programs and update them. And okay, let's get onto a different path of where you are on your current age and knowing what you know now.
What do you say to somebody who's maybe subscribed to the cliche of like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Like, 'cause I imagine there's some folks out there that hear that, say, hey, that's great, but I am who I am. This is what I've been, and like, they may want to change, but the belief of actually changing may escape them.
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's something I get a lot. So here's how our brain works. We can be operating totally fine, and then suddenly a significant event happens, right? So we can be going about our business, and then at 7 years old, say for example, somebody in school embarrasses you and tells you that you're worthless, right? Like I had a client, she wet her pants at 5 years old, and some kids were laughing at her, telling her she was ugly, and that's what she was operating on for until she was in her 30s. But it happens in a second. And so the thing to note is that when we create a belief, it can happen in a moment. It happens during a significant event. It literally takes seconds. And then you have this program running. And so it goes so long that sometimes you don't even remember where it started. But through these mental exercises, we can actually go back and go, okay, where did this start? What happened? And because our mind learns very quickly, it can change it very quickly. So we just need an awareness, sometimes just a knowing of like, oh, that's dumb, right? Like, where did that come from? Why do I believe that? This because of this one thing. But what we do is really we take the learnings from those past significant events. We learn from them, and that's how we move on from the emotion of it. That's how we neutralize it. So because we can start in a second having a negative belief, we can also do it the opposite way. And that's what we use is the same way you're gaining those negative beliefs, we're taking that into a positive way and changing them very quickly.
Yeah, you've mentioned a couple times here the word awareness, which is really awesome, and it's something that we've created a lot of. Like, I think entrepreneurship is the highest form of personal development, and Mike and I have invested a ton in ourselves and trying to make ourselves better because we know we're always the bottleneck in our business, right?
Yeah.
And I got to a certain point where I had so much awareness about a lot of things, but I kept falling back into the same traps over and over and over again. And that's why, I wanted to work with you and ultimately got through some of those things. So what's that, I guess, connection between awareness and then the stuff that you're doing to actually take that awareness and do something with it?
Yeah. So it's a pretty, it's simple, but kind of complex in a sense of we dig right to the root cause. And that's really what is the main. That's how I get success for my clients is we figure out what is the root causing what we call these symptoms. So somebody may be experiencing fear of failure, or they are having an imposter syndrome, or they're feeling like a fraud, or they're feeling like they'll never be successful, or if other people are better than them. They have all of these what we call symptoms. But it's usually related to one root cause, one root belief at the core of all of those symptoms. And so if we're just chasing symptoms, this is how a lot of, self-development modalities are. We just chase the symptom. We'll just go with insecurities, or we'll look for more confidence, or let's get rid of being a fraud, right? So we can work on that, and then maybe we do these mantras or affirmations, or we're telling ourselves over and over again, right? Writing things all over the mirror, like trying to trick ourselves into thinking it. But really deep inside, we don't believe it. And so there's a belief underneath that surface that we have to get to in order to eliminate all the symptoms. Just like you get to the root of a disease or an infection or a virus, you have to attack the virus itself in order for the cough, the fever, the symptoms to go away. And so that's really the crux of my work, is how I get the best results, is we get to that root cause. And once you get to that root cause, your subconscious has no reason at all to behave that way anymore, because we change that belief. So there's the belief system underneath that is really at the true heart of getting to that change.
That's cool. Let's explore symptoms for a moment. So when it comes to symptoms, what kind of things do you see business owners, entrepreneurs experiencing as a symptom that might be a clue to them that they should be exploring a potential root cause? Because I think sometimes we might not recognize that these many different symptoms are somehow connected.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So oftentimes the symptoms become so overwhelming that it's almost paralyzing to the person, especially a business owner who has a lot on their plates. Often it shows up in ways of even things that seem unrelated, like overeating, alcoholism, drug abuse. It can even come out in ways of insomnia, or anger, or I'm snapping at my family all the time. Those sorts of things, where they can't control their money. They're irresponsible with their time. Those sorts of things are usually what is, it's a sign that there's something going on underneath the surface. But I always say, like, it's not a problem unless it's a problem for you, right? Because some people operate, I've seen billionaire entrepreneurs who get 3 hours of sleep a night and they're totally fine and really successful. That's not a problem for them. But if somebody comes to me and they're like, I can't sleep at night, I'm anxious, I'm worried, I'm stressed, now I'm getting physical symptoms, I just had a heart attack, all these things, and something needs to change, and I can't keep going on like this. That's when we're like, okay, let's figure out what's happening here. So it's usually physical, internal, or emotional symptoms that's overwhelming the person that when they come to me.
Right. Yeah, and I think inside of the business and agencies specifically, there are symptoms of you should charge more, but you're not. Right. Mm-hmm. You know that there's an opportunity to follow up with a client that could be a great paying client, but somehow you never pick up the phone or send that email, or interpersonal relationships with people on your team or contractors, or the willingness to make investments in your own business. All the things that seem scary or uncertain in your business, like, certainly there might be something around experience or knowledge, but oftentimes I found that many of us, we have access to the knowledge. Mm-hmm. We have access to the systems, we have access to the people, we have access to all the things we need to technically do the work. But if there's something stopping you from actually doing it, there might be an underlying thing. Because I know that when I first heard this, I didn't see the connection between anger, right, or frustration outside of work with some of the things that were happening in work. But in working with you and exploring this more, there really is those connections and many times I would imagine people come to you not because they're snapping at their family, but because there's something in their business that is driving that. Would you say that's true?
Oh yeah, for sure. And the thing that you said about, like, what somebody knows what they need to do, but then they're not doing it. That's exactly it. Like, when somebody's going, I know what I have to do, but I can't seem to get myself to do it. That means that there are two parts that are in conflict underneath the surface: your unconscious mind, or subconscious as we may call it, and then the conscious mind. So part of you wants to do something, but the other part of you is pulling back, like, no, we're not going to do that. That's too scary, right? And so there's a disconnect, and that's when we start to do work like this, it's putting those two parts together so they start working in harmony to get you on autopilot to move forward.
Yeah, I don't know if it was you or somebody else that told me that the clear clue that our subconscious was running the show is that if it wasn't, then we'd all have six packs, right? Like we all want and have a great buddy and whatnot, but like oftentimes we don't do the steps necessary to make that happen, right? So that was like a big aha moment for me, and understanding that subconscious is really the boss. It's running the show.
If it were on board with everything we wanted to do, we would be like stellar successful, right? But the thing too to keep in mind is that it happens. This is kind of a normal thing, right? It's a normal. Everybody has it. We're all human. I've worked with. I had a client once who was a billionaire, and he came to me saying he felt like a fraud and he had insecurities. I'm like, well, he had everything he wanted. His business was running perfectly, yet he still wanted more because there were still things inside that he wanted to work on. So, it's not like you have to be completely unsuccessful to do this work. Oftentimes it's the more successful you become, the more you start to level up and go, okay, well now what's the next step? And there's always room to grow.
Yeah, well, we're super excited to have you speak because we know we're teaching all the tactics, all the strategies, everything else, but without this part, it's not going to work, right? And so could you provide just some insights into your talk at the event and how the agency owners that are there are going to benefit from it?
Yes, so during the talk, I'm going to give all of you 3 tips on how to be your own mindset Jedi so that you can start to get your business on autopilot, or get your mindset on autopilot for a business breakthrough. So I'm going to share with you some simple tips that you can do for yourself that will just help to get to those limiting beliefs that are underneath the surface, to identify those symptoms that are the core that's causing the symptoms of whatever it is that you feel like you're lacking to get to that next level up in your business.
Well, Melissa, it's going to be amazing. I can't wait to see that talk. And you guys, you are in for a real treat. So you got to be there June 23rd through 25th, Scottsdale, Arizona, the Talking Stick Resort, Agency Mastermind Live. We still have a few remaining seats for some clients. So if that's something you're interested in around this video, you'll see the opportunity to get started on that. So Melissa, we will see you in Scottsdale and can't wait to see you do your magic.
Hey.
Same here. All right, you guys. Can't wait to see all of you.
All right,
Awesome.
we'll see ya.